I have now changed my view on one platform that I'm really not going to be using much anymore. And I guarantee you it's going to surprise you because I know a lot of you do use it. Hi, this is Carrie with Sunshine Vintage Vibes. Welcome to another Reseller's Life. I am a vintage home decor reseller. I have my main shop on Etsy, but I do cross list on other platforms. And today we are diving deep into July's sales. And so I'm going to share everything that's sold for the month of July on all platforms. I'm going to show you my top selling categories. And of course, I'm going to share my top 3 selling items. And as we start to plan for the busy season, I really need to maximize my time on what platforms I'm going to be using and cross listing on. So I decided I really need to figure this out. So I'm going to recap all of the platforms, their fees, and what platforms are going to be the most beneficial to me to cross list. So hopefully that will help you. And then I'm going to end with just a couple of questions about, you know what it's about, shipping. Shipping is always the biggest issue. Here are my numbers for July. I'm going to put the information up and I'm going to look at my screen so that I can show you, but I had 63 sales for the month of July, and it's been slow, but it's July. July and August tend to be the slowest months on Etsy and a lot for resellers. So 63 sales for July, 81 in June, and 85 in May. So definitely took a dip, but I was expecting it. Now I was on Etsy last summer, but I also had very little inventory. So it was hard to compare. So it'll be interesting next year what my July sales. And then here is the breakdown. Now this is profit. This is profit. I subtract all of the Etsy fees, all of the shipping costs, marketing fees. I am charged a marketing fee on Etsy and cost of goods sold. I keep a very good record of my sales on an Excel spreadsheet. And this is profit. The only thing not included is if I buy tape, like my shop sort of expensive. If I buy tape or bubble wrap, that's the only thing not included, but these are my shop profits. So for the month of July, I hit $1,971.91. So basically just under 2,000. It wasn't too bad. I was actually expecting it to be a lot less. I don't know why. I kind of had bursts of sales. There were days I didn't have sales, which I don't like. I like to have sales every day. I like my phone chinging every day. And when it doesn't, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so slow. But in the end, just under 2,000, not bad, not bad for July. Of course, June, I was at what, 2,300. And then I think I was in May, it was almost 2,700. So yes, I am down, but I was expecting that. If you've just opened your shop within the last month or two, don't fret. Summer is slow. July and August are slow months, but it's a really good time to start. I started in the summer and I'm so glad I did. It really gave me the chance to learn, to make mistakes. If I made a mistake, I was having to correct, 10 listings, 20 listings, not, 400 listings. So I think summer is a really good time to get started because it allows you to sort of get the momentum. So to me, that was what summer is all about, is really like getting through your death pile, getting everything up and listed. If you've had your shop for a while, it's a great time to redo photos, add that second video. So that's what I have been doing. I haven't been thrifting in over a week. I was in Portland, and since I've been home, I have not thrifted at all. Not at all. I haven't even gotten onto estatesales.net, which is where I find all my estate sales, because I was worried if I saw a really, really good one, I would go, and I don't want to. I'm almost through my thrift-a-palooza. Then I have all my stuff from when I was up in Portland, and then I have all the framing and some repairs. So that is my goal. I'm really trying to just get through it. So summer is a great time for that. So here is the stats on platform. These are my sales per platform. So I sold on Etsy, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, and Poshmark. I use a cross lister, and that is how I cross list all of my items. My main shop, I work off of Etsy. And then right now I use Flip, FLYP, as my cross lister. They give you 100 days free. It's definitely worth a shot to see if you even want to do cross listing. So here is the breakdown. So I had 54 sales on Etsy. I had 6 on Facebook Marketplace, two on eBay and one on Poshmark. So Facebook Marketplace, I have not, I'd say in the last couple weeks, I was really on a roll and I was listing all of like my sort of low end items and they were selling and I just have not been doing that. So that's something else I really want to do in this month in August is cross list everything on Facebook Marketplace. It's really been one of the platforms that has surprised me. But we'll talk about platforms in just a bit. Let's get through all of the top selling items. So the sales by platform, $3,336 in sales. This is sales, not profit. $100 on Facebook Marketplace. Poshmark was 68 and 43 on eBay. So those are the sales breakdown. You can see that I do most of my business on Etsy and with a little bit of the other platforms. I plan on doing a lot of cross listing this month. So come October, so there are more buyers, more sales on Etsy and really the other platforms. October, November, December. Those are your busy months, but you really want to be ready by September because sales start to come in and you don't want to get behind. Here are my top selling categories for the month of July. Remember, everybody's categories are going to be a bit different because it really depends on what you pick up. I do not pick up a lot of pottery, and so it's not going to be one of my top sellers because I just don't have a lot in my shop. So here are the top sellers. Now I ranked them on the left by volume, like how many I sold, and on the right they're ranked by dollar amount. So here are my top selling categories. Number one was art. I sold 10 pieces of art. I love to sell art, and I had $485 of sales. This is sales, not profit. But if you can see on the right, that was not my number one category by dollar amount. So you can see down. Now, the number two was copper. You know, I buy a lot of copper. I love to pick up copper. Number two was copper with 9 sales. It was 400 and I had $467, and that actually ranked 3. Now, number two, shared with number two, is storage and tabletop. And I will show you in just a minute what that means. It's basically like book racks, spice racks, anything that sort of sits on the table and has like storage. That's what I considered sort of storage tabletop because they're not, it's furniture, but for the table. So that was, I had 8 sales and that was my highest dollar amount. That was my number one, $625 in sales, sales, not profit. This is all sales, no expenses taken out. And this tends to be one of my top sellers because I do sell some large pieces. And you'll see in a bit the ones that I do sell. So number 4 is figurines. Now this one really surprised me. I was surprised figurines made the list. I do pick up figurines, but it's never really made the list. So I had 6 sales in figurines. 2 of those were on Facebook Marketplace. Now they were number 4 in sales, basically $236. So on both sides, they were number 4. And then my number 5 was wood. Now, wood I consider like wood trays, Florentine, I put that in that wood category. Anything wood for the kitchen, that is my wood category. I had 6 sales, so tied with figurines, but a little less on the price point, and that was $187 in sales. So that is my top 5. The one that surprised me the most was for sure figurines. I was totally shocked by figurines. Here's all the art that sold. It's really took a variety. So I have like needlepoint. I have some fabulous paintings. I did put the pottery that is art. It is a pottery sculpture that hangs on the wall. So I did include that in there. The carriage I put as art. Now I had it under figurines because that's how I'd have it on Etsy and how it sold. But when I asked AI, they're like, no, that is art. So, and it's by Franklin Mint. So is it art? That's where I put it. Now, next up is copper. I did sell quite a bit of copper. That copper tray. I had that matchstick. That matchstick, if you ever see that matchstick holder, just buy it. Just buy it. I have now sold 3 and they sell quick. Like within days, they sell. I did sell a set of pots and pans. And then another French pan sold. So you can see the copper that sold. Such a good month for copper. Now, number 3 was basically storage and tabletop. I sold many of those wood book racks, those book racks that hold like it's like a bookend. Now, the crazy thing is I actually had something this happened twice, lost in the mail. I've never had that before. So I did have to do a refund and then put a claim in, which I've never had to do that before. I've had two items lost in the mail. So I did do that. And then I reached out to the buyer, which I was really sad about both of them. The buyer who bought bought the book rack. This was like the previous month. I said, I have other book racks, not small. This one's, I have ones that are a little bit longer, but I'd be happy to give you a discount on it. So she did end up buying another book rack and it was received and she got it. So, but filing a claim, that was new for me. This is like what I talk about tabletop storage. It's all of these like book racks. And then I sold that spice rack. And then I had the little like glass spice rack, then some like office decor. I'm trying to narrow down my categories for these videos just so it's more helpful. I don't really want to have 30 categories or 20 like my sections, my shop sections in my Etsy shop because it just like because I do have an office decor section in my Etsy shop and that item that's where it was. It was in my office decor. I am always on the hunt for these items. These are my if I am somewhere, let's say a flea market, for sure a garage sale, but you don't find those too often. Even thrift stores, I am looking for these sort of tabletop storage. They always sell, always sell. And now that I figured out shipping for the most part, now I'm not afraid to list these heavy, big items because I can go UPS or FedEx. The next category is figurines. Who knew figurines would make it? So now figurines, remember I told you that the carriage I did have under figurines, but then I changed it to art. I'm still torn on that. So I'm going to keep it at art, but it could be in figurines as well. I also I usually have a brass category where I just put brass, but the brass that sold were both figurines. So I sold that swan planter. That was one of my bigger sales for $98. I found that at the community garage sale that I went to with my mom and sister. And then these brass burrs I put under figurines. I found those in Palm Springs. So, and then this little wood cat I've had for a very, very long time, very sweet Siamese cat. And then I sold two items. So the dog and the little Russian dolls. Those I consider figurines. Those sold on Facebook Marketplace. So that was really exciting to have those sold. Here are the wood items that I sold. So it kind of runs the gamut a little bit. I have the little tiny like wood forks. I also have Florentine. I do include Florentine in my wood, unless it's art. I know it gets confusing, but you just, at the end, I have to pick a category. Just like when I'm doing my Etsy shop, I have to pick a category, a section, not just a category for Etsy, but also a section for my own shop. If you don't know what I'm talking about as sections, you need to have shop sections for your shop. Etsy has all the information about it. And then I also sold those two vases. The large glossy like redwood one I actually got for free. So love that. Cost of goods sold a zero. So now let's just go through all the rest of the sales. When I am thrifting, I often say I don't pick up baskets. So I have to stop saying that. I've been saying that about a lot of things. I have to stop saying that because who knows what I'll pick up. Now, baskets, to me, I have two categories for baskets. I have sort of the woven traditional Longaberger kind of basket. And then I have the more Native American, African, coiled baskets. So I sold 3 baskets this past month and you can see, so I have like the coiled woven ones, colorful, and then I have one small Longaberger basket that sold. And the funny thing is I would say that I'm not picking up Longaberger because they don't sold. Well, I had 3, they all sold. So now I'm thinking twice about that. And I did recently pick up a basket for flowers. So I have to I guess if it's a good price, and baskets they're not hot sellers for me, but they're consistently, I want to say I sell at least a basket a month, but this time I had 3. So that was kind of exciting. And it also, when you do this kind of stats, and I suggest you do it just to take a snapshot for you. It's nothing you have to put out there, but just if you take a snapshot of what you have sold, you're like, oh, I sold 3 baskets. I didn't realize it. So it really makes you stop and think about what you sold. I also had 3 sales in books, the Agatha Christie, and then the Odyssey, and then this vintage about rocket propulsion from the 1960s that actually sold for $58. That was a good sale. So books, again, are kind of a consistent seller for me. Those are my 63 sales for the month of July, and I'm going to show you my top 3 selling items. And then I'm going to give you a snapshot of the cross-listing platforms and something I hadn't done. And I'm so glad I did this because I have now changed my view on one platform that I'm really not going to be using much anymore. And I guarantee you it's going to surprise you because I know a lot of you do use it. So let me share my top 3 selling items. Here is my number 3 selling category. I picked this up in Palm Springs, the Angel View in Palm Springs. And I was so excited when I found it, and it sold for $128. It's one of those, like, it has like little card catalogs. That's what those drawers are. And then it has some filing. When I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to buy this. I was so excited. So that was number 3. Number 2 was this wooden spice rack. Now this spice rack had the drawers actually pulled out, and they were glass. They were glass. You would unscrew basically the drawer front to get to your spice. So it was pretty heavy, but it was narrow. It wasn't a huge, I mean, it was wide, but it wasn't very deep. But it was heavy, but I did ship that out. I want to say I shipped that out FedEx, $148. I'm pretty sure I picked that up at the Long Beach flea market. So my number 1 drum roll was this vanity mirror. It's called a shaving mirror, and it has little drawers. And so it was used for men who would keep their shaving paraphernalia in those drawers, and they would use it to shave. But now it can be used, of course, for anything. And it's such a beautiful piece. It sold for $178. I picked it up at a community garage sale for a lot less. And so those are my top 3. And as you can see, there is a theme there. Now I pick up this kind of stuff all the time. I love art, I love copper, and I love this kind of tabletop storage. I actually picked up another one of these mirrors. I can see it here. It's just sitting on the table because I don't know where else to put it. And I'm now, if you watch my shipping video, this is when I'm talking about shipping heavy items. This is one of the items I show how to wrap it up and ship. I did ship this one FedEx. I did not get upcharged. So that's always a good thing. Since I only started doing cross listing in March, I definitely have not maximized it. And it's something that, again, slow summer is the time you got to like look into doing this. If I can get all of the items that I want cross listed this next month-ish, then come the selling season and the new stuff I bring in, it's going to be a lot easier to manage. And then come October, November, December, those are the busiest months for a reseller across all platforms. You want your shop to be, you don't want a death pile, you want everything listed, you want photos and videos maximized, and you want, if you're cross-listing, you want all your items cross-listed. That is my plan. And I'm a little bit behind. So cross-listing is something I really want to work on this month. And I had a sale on one of the other platforms, and I thought, wait, that seems like a lot. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do a big like recap. Let's dig in and see, where should I be spending my time? Because it does take time. Now, using a cross lister is awesome. And I definitely couldn't do it without a cross lister. I use Flip right now, FLYP. They have a 100-day free trial. That's why I did it, because it was free. It was easy. Here is what I created to help me decide what platforms I should be cross-listing on, which ones I should really be recognizing. So there's just too many to tackle all of them. I kind of want to narrow it down to Etsy being my number 1 and 2 more. I needed the numbers. I needed the numbers to figure out where I should be spending my time this month. So here is what I figured out. So I broke it down: Etsy, eBay, Facebook Marketplace. Now we're talking shipped, not pickup because you have no fees for pickup. If you sell an item for 20, you better get 20. So Facebook Marketplace shipped, and then we're doing Poshmark, Depop, Macari, Vinted, and whatnot. So this is the breakdown of the fees for each platform. So you can see. So you can see the seller commission, and there's also a payment processing. Some of them will charge a payment processing to process the buyer's payment. All of these are seller fees. These are what the seller pays. Then there is a listing fee. So the Etsy does charge a 20-cent listing fee, which is why a lot of people don't like to be on Etsy because it is an upfront fee. I did it with a payout of $20. So if I sold an item for 20, what would my payout? If I sold my item for 100, what my payout? And I was surprised by two of these. So here is the answers. Here's the answer. So if I sold an item on Etsy, now this will include the 20-cent insertion fee. Basically, if I sold an item for $20 on Etsy, how much money am I getting? How much profit am I making? I'm making $17.65 on Etsy. And if you can see on eBay, I'm actually making less, $16.92. Now, Facebook Marketplace is the best. They charge a very minimal fee, and the processing fee is already included that. So it actually make $19. That's pretty darn good. Now, I am taking into account that the shipping is covered by the buyer. I know sometimes we ship and we have to pay a little extra, but sometimes we pay a little less. We're talking, within a dollar or two. So I always feel that evens out, but for the most part, the buyer pays the shipping. So shipping is not included in this. So if you do free shipping, you're going to have to factor that in. So on Facebook Marketplace, I would make $19. Now, $16 on Poshmark. That was my big surprise. I had a piece of art for $68 that sold. With my cost of goods sold, it was almost half. Well, that made no sense to me. I paid $13.60 in fees. I bought it for $25. It was a beautiful piece of art I bought up in Santa Barbara. So I got $29.40 profit. That really bummed me out. I was not happy with that statistic. So this is how that came about, was that piece of art. So on Depop and Macari, I'm at $18.44 and $18.92. So the Macari is way better than Poshmark. We're talking what I bring home, what my profit is. And then Vinted was $20 because the buyers pay all the fee. I have not tried Vinted. If you've tried Vinted, tell me how it's working. I hear it's kind of on the low end and it's a place to get rid of things. So I don't have any experience in Vinted, but I wanted to include it because I know a lot of people are using it now, but the buyer pays all the fees. And then Whatnot, there are fees when you ship. So $17.52. So now I also did it for $100 because that's like, let's see what chunk is taking me. So here we're at $90 for Etsy, $86 for eBay, $95 for Facebook Marketplace, $80 for Poshmark, $20 for fees. That's huge. That is huge. Then we're at 96 for Depop and Macari. Vinted, again, you get it all because the buyer pays the fees. And then Whatnot was 88, which kind of surprised me on that one. When it's a low number, it doesn't feel so bad, but Whatnot at $88, that's still a lot. So what does all this mean? This means I am not going to be listing on Poshmark anymore. They are taking way too much, and I do not have that many sales where it's like I should be spending all my extra time. If I'm going to be cross listing, where should I be spending my time? Number one, I will be listing on Etsy. It's where my shop is. It's where, I have sort of my business is on Etsy. So where's my number two? My number two is going to be Facebook Marketplace. I've had some success in the last 2 months, and I have not been listing yet. I still have sales. So Facebook Marketplace will be my number two. And as you can see, the fees are minimal. They are besides Vinted where the buyer is paying the fees, Facebook Marketplace and Macari, Facebook Marketplace, Depop and Mercari are the top three. They're better than Etsy in regards to profit. So my number three is either Depop or Mercari or both. I'm not sure. I have like 6 listings on Depop. I have hardly put anything on there. I have nothing on Mercari, but that's on me. So I am going to take a big, huge step back from Poshmark. I'm pretty disappointed that the fees are so high. They're the highest. So I'm not going to be listing on Poshmark anymore. I don't need it. I don't need Poshmark when Depop and Mercari provide a better return, a much better return because their fees are a lot less. And I haven't really like dove into them and to see if I'm getting sales. So I'm going to try for sure Depop. I have about 5 or 6 items on there. And so I'm going to just start. I'm going to start with Depop and Mercari and see which one's really like giving me it. Probably won't do both unless they're really providing. But I think my number one is Etsy. My number two is Facebook Marketplace. Now let's take a look at eBay. I have not had much success with eBay. And to get $86, so if I sell something for 100 and to get $86, just doesn't seem worth it. When maybe I should just be listing on Etsy, Facebook Marketplace, Depop, and or Mercari, and then I don't really even need eBay, and their fees are so high. But as you can see, that's not the case. The number highest one that charges the fees is Poshmark. Poshmark is so, I was so sad because I probably have like at least 100 items on Poshmark. Now, it's not something I sell a lot. I don't have a lot of sales. I just had one this past month, but it's not something I'm going to like go into. Now, eBay was another one. I don't have a lot of sales on eBay. I did have 2 this month, but again, I probably have 100-ish items on there. So eventually something's gonna sell. I for sure always Etsy, doubling down on Facebook Marketplace. I've had some success and I don't have a lot of listings. So imagine if I started listing how many sales I would have. So for sure, doubling down on Facebook Marketplace, and I'm gonna try Depop and Mercari. If you've had some success on Depop, Mercari, I'd love to know. I know a lot of resellers use those, and I just haven't, just because it's hard to do all of them. Well, now I know which ones to concentrate on. I'm not gonna do Vinted just because I just don't feel I'm ready for another platform. And unless I do a Whatnot show, I'm gonna just sort of wait on Whatnot until I want to, until I have the time for it. So what's my plan? Etsy, for sure. I'm already on Etsy. All my items are always listed on Etsy first. I'm doubling down on Facebook Marketplace. Everything that I could possibly put on Facebook Marketplace, I will. And now I got to start doing some research because I know, of course, clothing, bags, shoes sell on Depop and Mercari. I don't really know the home decor market on both of those platforms. So something I really need to research, but that is where I'm going to be concentrating on. I'm going to be concentrating on the platforms that don't take $20 of my profit. That is just too much for the work that goes into it. So that is my like revelation this month about the platforms and what my plan is moving forward. Now let's talk about a few things that I get a lot of questions on, mostly shipping. Follow up to my video where I shipped those large heavy items. So I shipped out 4 items FedEx and 1 UPS. They all got delivered. I was not upcharged on any of them. However, I want to say with a week later, I shipped out a piece of art and the buyer requested UPS. They said the post office doesn't deliver. So I sent it UPS. I took a box. I actually changed the size of the box to make it shorter, to make the height shorter so that it would go into those parameters. I shipped it UPS and I was upcharged by UPS. I measured that box and it was even under, like, let's say it can go up to like say 9 inches before. After 9 inches, it was going to go to the higher category of shipping. It was like at like 8.25. It was definitely within that range, and I was upcharged like $12. So I was not happy about it. It definitely makes me pause. However, I've also been upcharged by USPS, by the post office. I have been upcharged multiple times. So it's not just a UPS thing. So far, FedEx is winning. I have never been upcharged by FedEx, but I've only sent out maybe 6 items FedEx. UPS, I probably only have sent out maybe 4 items, and I was upcharged already on one. United States Post Office, I've shipped 700 and I was probably upcharged maybe on 4. So I guess USPS is still winning, but I think I will pick FedEx over UPS right now. I know everybody has their own like experience. I did want to follow up and just let you know the upcharges. I did not have any upcharges, and then I did have one. So it's something to take into consideration when you do ship those large, heavy items. Just account for the possibility of being upcharged. But I was actually doing some research today on an item that I am listing, and there was a couple of listings that were really low price, and I was wondering why were they so low. Then I saw the shipping. There was an item that was listed for $45 and it said the shipping was $165. Now, this was coming from the US. This isn't what, like, sometimes you'll get items that are like in the UK. That's why the shipping is so high. But I think because it was a large, big, heavy item and they were accounting for like a huge box going through the post office and not an alternative carrier. So definitely check your shipping costs on items. I've mentioned this before. You can sort your items by views. Your highest view item, your highest viewed items, if they are not selling, check your shipping. Check your shipping. There's a high percentage rate that the reason those your top listings are not selling is your shipping is too high. I was shocked by how many listings had 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, $160 shipping. No one's going to buy a $45 item if the shipping is 165. They're just not going to do it. You're just wasting a listing. So check your shipping on those items. And if you don't know what I'm talking about or you're not sure where to find it, I will do a screenshot right now. And then I'm going to show, this is something I get a request a lot, is where do you find ground shipping on Etsy? And how do you create a ground shipping profile? So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to screenshot that. On your shop manager, you go to stats and you click shop traffic. It's going to take you. Now you can see here it has already populated to August. So let's do the last 30 days. I'm going to click, you can sort it any way you want. So I'm going to do the last 30 days and I'm going to go down to my stats. Shopper viewed your listings 7,725 times. So over here, all listings. I only want active. Expired, inactive, sold. I don't care. Those are sold. Let's only do active listings. So what is my number one listing? So let's take a look at this. My number one viewed listing are these Fostoria glasses. 106 views, 13 favorites. So why hasn't that sold? Let's look at it. Let's look at the shipping. Oh, I have to go somewhere else. So let's look at the shipping as to why that has not sold. I spelled it right? I did. Okay. So I have them at $78, not too bad. And the shipping I have at $49. Too high. The shipping is too high, and that is USPS. So look at me. I made a mistake. I'm telling you, I'm going to change this right now. I guarantee you, when I do these sales in August, this will be sold. Why? Because I know I can ship these for less. Now, glasses are one of those things that you have to bubble wrap. They become a lot of them. They become heavy and they become large. So I know through USPS that is pretty accurate, that $49, but I know I can ship them for less through FedEx. So I'm just going to reduce the shipping costs. And how I do that, so I just go to New York is my highest because I'm in California. And you can go down, like if somewhere to buy in California, it's only 20, but even 20 is a lot. So I'm actually going to reduce the price a little. And you can just manipulate this a bit. So let's just do the weight by 7 pounds. I don't think the weight's mattering. Let's just go down to 16 inches, takes it down to 33. $33 makes me feel a little better. Let's see if the height at 10, so 29. Okay, so I think I'm going to change it to 20. That's the highest shipping. So if it ships to New York. Now I'm planning on shipping this through FedEx most likely because it's going to be cheaper than USPS. Now I want to show you something I did add to all of my listings, but I added this item maybe shipped FedEx or UPS depending on price. So I want the buyer to be very aware that this item will most likely not be shipped through the post office. So I've added that disclaimer on all my heavy items where I know that most likely I'm going to be shipping FedEx. FedEx seems to be cheaper than UPS for sure cheaper than USPS for these large items. So now this item that was my top viewed item for the last 30 days, this 178 views that hasn't sold, most likely it's shipping. Because I think the price 70 is pretty good. So let's reduce the shipping, which I just did. So now it's at $29.33 if it ships to the East Coast. Obviously, it's less. You can see if it goes to, like, say, Denver, $18. So let's save that. I'm going to publish the changes. And next month, let's see if that changes. So that is how you check items that tons of activity, but nobody's buying. Check your shipping, check your shipping. Now let me show you where you find your ground shipping. So you can create a ground shipping profile on your Etsy account. It's hidden. I had to search it. I had to Google it to find it. Go to your shop manager. Under settings, you're going to go to shipping settings. You're going to go to shipping settings. Scroll down. You're going to create a profile. Mine's already there, but I can still show you. You're going to go to create a profile, the little plus sign, and then you're going to go down here. You're going to create one, right? You're going to create a profile, but this is where you're going to find it under shipping services. See here? Edit. Go to edit. Down here, see it has all of these clicked. Click this right here. This is where it's hiding. It is hiding. Advanced services selected. Here you have ground and you have media mail. Now I will just create a profile just for that. So that is where it's hiding. So again, let me show you where it's hiding. It's hiding in under shipping services, edit, you go to edit, down here, advanced shipping services, you click it, there it is. There's your ground and your media mail. So here are my shipping profiles. I have ground, I have media mail that I ship all my books, and I have free shipping that I haven't used. I just have it set up. Now, this last one was shipping art. It was that item that I just shipped out through UPS. I actually calculated it. I packed it all up, got it ready, and gave the buyer a specific cost for his zip code. And I created a profile just for him so that he could pay that amount. Otherwise, I am doing a credit to the buyers. That is where ground shipping is. They hide it. Why I have that shipping art profile is you can't create a UPS or FedEx profile. You can't do it. You have to have a fixed price. So what I have been doing is I add in that disclaimer. When I go to ship, if FedEx is cheaper, I will, or UPS, I will ship it through them. If the buyer paid a lot more, then I will credit the buyer back. I will refund any shipping overages. That is all they allow you to do. I wish you could set up a profile where they can choose, because then I would really make such a huge difference. Shipping is tricky. I haven't found a way. I know a lot of resellers do free shipping. I don't feel comfortable doing that. I hope someday I do, just like I hope someday I don't like calculate every single penny I pay for items. Right now, I am keeping track of everything I buy, how much I paid. I'm keeping track of all my shipping. I don't do free shipping. So maybe someday I'll do that, but not yet. So again, platforms, I was really surprised by that. So that is this month's recap. I will be back next Monday with another reselling video. Here is a link. This goes to all of everything that I use. It goes to my Amazon account, all of the products I use to run my business, also the cross lister, and some other fun items. And then Thursday are always my thrifting videos. I have Thriftapalooza coming up. I have my Thriftapalooza is this week, and then the following week is going to be my Oregon trip when I went up to Portland and I met Laura and Jesse Caldwell with Left Coast Revivals and Andy with All Put Together. It was so amazing. So this Thursday will be Thriftapalooza. We had it here in Pomona, and then the following Thursday will be my Oregon trip. And then I have like an extra garage sale one that I had gone out and done a ton of like garage sailing. So I have not been thrifting since I was in Portland, and I am going out to Colorado in like a week and a half to help my son move, and I'm kind of planning on not thrifting. I am really getting through my inventory. Again, summer is the best time to get through your inventory. Take this time when it's slow. At least I've been slow. to get through all of my inventory. That is my plan. So come September, I'm doing a Christmas drop in September. So I got to be ready. I got to be ready to have everything else up so that I can drop for Christmas. And then we're going to be into selling season. So my suggestion is get all of that stuff listed, get it up on your shop, start cross listing, and get ready for a very, very busy selling season. Again, thanks. We'll see you next time. Bye.